everybody. Welcome to the Democratic National Convention version of Rapid Response. Let's dive in.
If you don't get rid of that tax within 24 hours, starting on Monday morning, it was a Friday, I'm going to charge every bottle of wine and champagne that you send into our country. I'm going to charge you a tariff of 100% on every bottle.
First of all, it's just kind of amazing to me that after decades on TV and in the spotlight, Donald Trump has not yet learned how to modulate his voice. Really? Wow, ear splitting, just ear splitting. The other thing is champagne. Like, that to me just means he knows he's going to lose because he wants to make it more expensive for us to celebrate when we defeat him in a landslide. But the real message there is he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to the economy. So when you see a headline like Kamala Harris and Donald Trump lay out very different visions for the American economy, it's utter nonsense. Yes, Kamala Harris has laid out a very clear vision for her economic proposals. Donald Trump spouts nonsense about tariffs, which he clearly doesn't understand, because if he places tariffs on imported goods, who pays the price? Yes, the American consumer. So Donald Trump wants to make your life harder and everything you buy more expensive, which is regressive. So working class people of America, who for some bizarre reason think that Donald Trump is your champion, he's going to make your lives a misery in more ways than one, but particularly on the economic front, because everything you buy now is going to be unaffordable. So you might want to rethink who you're listening to when it comes to where the American economy needs to go.
In fact, we are moving in a better direction. And listen, we have the value of actually looking at history to see which economic philosophy and approach works better for Americans, right? Because we've tried trickle-down economics. We've tried the top-down approach before, several times before. And then we've also tried the Biden-Harris approach of building from the middle out. We've tried both approaches. And what we know, looking at Trump's tax cuts, the vast majority of that value, that wealth, went to billionaires, the largest corporations. Over 80% of the value of those tax breaks went to tax buybacks to help CEOs, executives, billionaires. Whereas our approach to invest in people and infrastructure, education, always works better, right? We've never as a country regretted investing in people and infrastructure, right? Whether it's the interstate highway system after World War II, whether it's investing in the GI Bill after World War II, which educated a whole generation of Americans who didn't have access to that. These policies and that approach works better. History shows it. It has proven it. And that's why I have confidence in the Biden-Harris approach.
Well, good for Jason Crow for going on Fox and being articulate about what Democrats do for the economy, not just historically, but now, and what Vice President Harris will continue doing. Because remember, it was the Biden-Harris, I keep saying was, it is the Biden-Harris administration. She's part of that. There's no reason to expect she will ditch the economic policies that President Biden embraced that have basically saved this country from economic collapse, which would have led to global economic collapse. So the Washington Post says, thanks to that very helpful chyron that Fox provided, that Harris's plan is full of gimmicks. What, as opposed to putting 100% tariff on wine and champagne? Give me a friggin' break. She laid out proposals that will help working Americans and middle-class Americans. How will she pay for it? Let me guess. Maybe she'll stop giving billionaires a tax break, which, Donald, is socialism. Or I don't know, what do you call her now? Comrade Kamala Harris. So, grow up. And secondly, learn a thing or two about how the economy works. Keynesian economics is the way to go. We've proven that over and over and over again. Trickle-down economics is a joke that has brought this country under how many at least 2 Republican presidents to the brink of disaster. Why are we not better off now than we would have been otherwise? Because Democratic presidents, time after time, have to dig us out of the very, very deep hole Republican presidents, including George W. Bush and especially Donald Trump, have put us in. I mean, we can have this conversation over and over and over again, but just look at the numbers. This is not a matter of opinion. These are data points. Okay? We know what works. We know what doesn't. We know who chooses to do the things that work, and we know who doesn't.
I am in the great city of Los Angeles. And although the state is pretty liberal, I'm looking around and I was talking to some of the drivers and the people I've met, and they all said that they've had it with Gavin Newsom's really liberal policies with the migrants coming in, taking their jobs, ruining their streets, and creating unsafe surroundings. So let's flip California, guys. Go to DonaldJTrump.com. Make America great again.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Sorry. Let me recalibrate. I can't. Please. First of all, I don't know who that was, but okay. Any Republicans watching? And I know there are tons of you out there watching the show right now. California is flippable. If you put in enough resources, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, put all of your money into California. Not only, I can't say it with a straight face because it's so absurd. Not only can you get 2 Senate seats, you can win the presidency for Donald Trump. You won't need Georgia or North Carolina. Stop wasting your money on Florida and Texas and Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Nevada and Michigan and Wisconsin. Focus all of your attention and money on California. That is like the safest bet in the history of betting. You heard it here first.
This time, I think it's very important, after January 6th, after what Donald Trump has refused for 4 years to acknowledge that he lost in his threats, against democracy. I think it's important to, turn the page, and that's why I will be voting for the vice president.
You mentioned Nikki Haley, and it sounds like, you mentioned her like you all are colleagues and friends, and I wonder, has there been any encouragement to her to say something or give some direction for those who have been supporting her along the way? She was very critical of Trump, and then to a lot of people's surprise, she then still said she'd still be voting for Trump. Has there been any pressure or encouragement that she tried to direct people who had been in support of her where they should best put their vote?
So much of the vote, even, after Nikki Haley dropped out, you saw so many people were voting for her anyway because it was an anti-Trump vote. So that anti-Trump vote continued because really since January 6th, even people, I didn't vote for Trump in 16 or 20, but even people who did realize that the party has suffered under Trump, and we need to turn the page and move on. And I actually think, as a Republican who's supporting some people like Governor Hogan in Maryland, I supported my own Governor Youngkin in Virginia, but I think this party is not going to heal until this is the most misogynist ticket we've ever had. It's not just Donald Trump. You have J.D. Vance with the attacks on childless cat ladies and postmenopausal grandmas, just offending everybody, now attacking the Irish and immigrants and things like that. There's just no ending of this misogyny on this other side. Donald Trump was introduced by a man at the convention who was on camera slapping his own wife. So this is just not acceptable. As I'm a grandmother to 4 granddaughters. This is not something that my party should accept, not to mention he's a felon. Not to mention, we still have cases where, he took classified documents. He, is always, never a bad word about Putin, but is constantly trashing America, saying we're a third world country. Nothing good to say about our own country. That's just unacceptable. And we as Republicans need to turn the page.
Well, I have no idea who that was. But yes, exactly. I mean, I have a question. I'm of two minds about her position. One, of course, if you care about the future of this country, even if you've been a Republican forever, you cannot support. Not only do you have to make it clear you're not supporting Donald Trump, you have to make it clear that you are supporting Kamala Harris. We have some people who said, I'm a Republican, I can't support Donald Trump, I'm going to write in John McCain's name. You're not a serious person then. That is just, if you write in anybody's name who's not Kamala Harris, you're not a serious person. You do not understand this assignment. Is that better than dead enders like Nikki Haley? Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not nothing to say you're not going to support Donald, but you're falling really short because you're not understanding the stakes, which is the case with whoever that was. On the one hand, yeah, good for you. You're supporting Kamala Harris, but if you're continuing to support, or if you're throwing your support behind Larry Hogan in Maryland, then you're not quite all the way there, because Donald Trump is not the problem. He's a symptom here. He's only a problem because of the extent to which he's been propped up by the Republican Party, which he has taken over wholesale. I mean, at this point, there's no daylight between him and the likes of Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, J.D. Vance. I could go on and on. Glenn Youngkin is no better. Do we really think that Larry Hogan, who governed as a moderate Republican as governor of Maryland, isn't going to be all in with the majority in his party if Maryland is reckless enough to give that guy a Senate seat? No. It would be disastrous for the Republicans to regain control of the Senate. It's bad enough. Like, in order for Democrats really to control the Senate, we need like 60 seats. So we have a 2-seat majority. It isn't enough. If Republicans get the majority, forget it. The filibuster's gone. And the Senate becomes even more undemocratic an institution than it already is. So, we need everybody going all in on Democrats across the board. I know that's very hard for you Republicans, but we're where we are because of your party, because of the recklessness and selfishness and thirst for power and failures of your party. We need to right the wrongs that have been done, not just in the last 8 years, but in the last several decades. This is a searching your soul moment and recognizing that this started with Ronald Reagan, if not before. So, yeah, let's come out against Donald Trump and for Kamala Harris, but it's a much bigger issue than that. Before we get to the next clip, I have a favor. If you haven't already, please click subscribe. We made it over 100,000 subscribers, but guess what? It's not enough. We want more. Let's make the next goal 150K. So please click subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. It just means that you will get alerted every time we have new videos, which is on a daily basis. And during this Democratic Convention week, it's going to be several times a day. So please click subscribe. On to the next clip.
Because many veterans are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't hear that. I only heard, when I say better, I would rather in a certain way get it, because people that get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I've given to many, are often horribly wounded or dead. They're often dead. They get it posthumously. And when you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, I always consider that to be the ultimate, but it is a painful thing to get it. When you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's usually for other things, like you've achieved great success in sports, or you've achieved great success someplace else. When you get the Medal of Honor, generally speaking, and I've met many of them, and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that it's much more painful to get, because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up, and they've suffered greatly, whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody suffered, other than they've worked hard and they've done great things. One's a military award, one's a civilian award, but sometimes very painful to get the other.
When can we be rid of this vile creature? Who's listening to him anymore? That is Donald Trump trying to clean up his egregious comments about recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor being somehow tainted, because in order to get it, which, by the way, most people get for making huge sacrifices for their country, it's a military, as he so helpfully pointed out. It's generally speaking for the military. They've lost their lives. They've been in active combat. They've been grievously wounded. So that somehow makes it a less good thing to get than the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which before Donald Trump came on the scene was to honor achievement for an American citizen. Yes, sometimes it's given to athletes, sometimes it's given to artists, sometimes it's given to entrepreneurs and innovators. But to try to compare the two kinds of things, say one's better than the other, because for the one you could just be, I don't know, intact and not hideously changed because you were shot at. I mean, the guy is such a creep. Jesus, why is he allowed to have a microphone in front of his face 24 hours a day? It's hearing him speak is always to be reminded what a broken, lost, just vile piece of work he is. Because again, that's the guy who, when he says great achievement, he's talking about people like Rush Limbaugh, whom he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award to. People like Miriam Adelson, who got it because she's really fucking rich because of her husband's casinos, and gave tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump. That's what qualifies in Donald Trump's book. But to see him spew his divisive, just hatred of people who actually have sacrificed something for this country, people who actually know what honor is also to remind us how broken we are, how broken we have become. Please, let's this week start healing again. We never will if people like him continue to be put into power.
Hello, everyone. I only want you to donate to my campaign if you can afford to. Unfortunately, most of you can't afford to because Joe Biden is a disaster as a president, the worst ever, and Kamala is worse than he is. She is actually worse. More evil, more committed to being radical left. I mean, she actually believes this stuff, defund the police and all of the other things. But if you can, donate. If you can't, I don't want to. We're going to make it. We're going to win one way or the other. But whatever you can do, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, that was uplifting. I'm convinced. Hey, yeah, who believes this? Radical left, yeah, the defund the police prosecutor. That makes logical sense. Also, for those of you who can't afford it, he really does want you to empty your bank accounts and send him all of your money. And if you do send him money, it's not going for his campaign. It's going to his legal defense fund. So if that's how you want to spend your Social Security dollars, which, by the way, will disappear if he gets back into office, go for it and reap what you sow.